You're welcome to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast, and I'm your host, Abuja-based event photographer Tavishima Ayede. A little bit about my personal background before we delve into the topic for today. I graduated from the University of Aberdeen, and I'm a proud alum. I'm currently participating in the student mentorship program for both the undergrad and postgraduate degree students in the university. And I've been currently assigned to a third-year psychology major who is interested in a photography career. Now, we've had several discussions so far, and our discussions have mostly been in the wedding photography aspect. She's interested in photography in general, and we've been talking a lot about wedding photography because that is a lot of what I do. That's apart from the corporate work that I do with the British Council, NGOs, and other diplomatic missions here in the city of Abuja. And one huge finding that we've had in the course of our discussion so far is that a multidisciplinary approach comes in really handy when you're trying to build an event and wedding, when you're trying to build a career in the event and wedding industry. Okay, now the principles of another thing that we've discovered, apart from the fact that it pays to have a multidisciplinary approach, is okay. Let me define what I mean by a multidisciplinary approach first of all. My primary academic background is in the law, and I found that several things that we do in the law, like case management, having client meetings, and things like that, have come in extremely useful when it comes to dealing with clients and also following through on my sales process as a wedding photographer. And we've also found for my mentee that it's also the same. There are several things that they learn in psychology about listening and relating to people that also come in handy when it comes to being a wedding photographer or being in the event business, because listening to your client is an essential part of being involved in the wedding industry and the event space, because you have to listen to your client, get a sense of what it is that they are interested in before you make a proposal about what it is that you're going to do for them, whether you're a cake artist or whether you're the event planner or whether you handle the pyrotechnics, or if you're the wedding photographer like myself, or if you're the videographer. Now, principles, back to the bit I was talking about principles of personal selling. So principles of personal selling, business management, money management, and all these sorts of things, they also apply in building a wedding event business. And in this case, since my mentee is involved in the study of psychology, a mental health practice, that's if she were going to set up a mental health practice. So that's a summary of what it is that I've been saying. In the multidisciplinary approach, you're going to learn about principles that also will apply in personal selling, business management, money management, and those sorts of things. So for those of you who are coming into the wedding industry, but without the professional background, let's say you didn't study event management before coming into the event industry, and I'm sure that will probably be 99% of us, because since I started as a wedding photographer maybe about 10 years ago, I've only run into two people who actually studied that in university, that is event management, and both of them happen to study abroad in the United Kingdom. I'm not sure if Nigerian schools offer those sorts of courses I'm not sure if they offer those courses in our local curriculum. Now, another way that we can see about the multidisciplinary approach is, there's a friend of mine in Abuja. His name is Manny, and his outfit is called Sculptors Events. I think his professional background is in real estate. I think it was maybe a project management major or something like that. But he takes that background into building his wedding planning business. So for those of you who who did some studying in project management. If you hang out with Manny, you can see that he incorporates some of that into how he builds his business. So you see a lot of project management theory and practice there as he executes the wedding to make sure that everything is tip top and runs on time. He also has a background and an interest in theater, but I think that was more from interest, but not from a not that that's part of what he studied in his undergrad, and he also brings that to his wedding planning business as well. So today we're going to take a detour. Well, from now we're going to take a detour, maybe for another 3 or 4 episodes, to move away from personal selling per se, and we're going to explore topics beyond personal selling that my mentee and I have recently been discussing. Now, the reason why I laid this preamble, the idea that a multidisciplinary approach is going to come in handy when it comes to personal selling, business management, money management, and those sorts of things, is that in discussing loads of things with my mentee, we've not just been talking about wedding photography. I mean, we've not just been talking about the wedding event space, but we've also been looking at things from the other angle, which is the mental health space. So we're going to tease out things as we go along in this detour about things that we'll make a detour and look at other material that are not necessarily event related, but we're going to be able to learn principles from there about how to sell better, about how to manage our business better, and how to manage our money better. So with that in view, let's go into the first item that we're going to discuss today, and that is money management and money pitfalls. Now, the study material that we went through here was a podcast that I gave to my mentee. Her name is Becca. So the study material that I gave to Becca was the Sell the Couch podcast. Now, it's a podcast about sales and marketing, but it is directed towards mental health practitioners only. So like I said, this is not related to the event space, it's not related to the wedding space. This is for mental health practitioners only. But still, we can learn about personal selling by listening to people in other disciplines. So the podcast is Sell the Couch Podcast, and it's the episode 220. That's money management and money pitfalls. Now, I wanted to get a sense of what lessons that Becca took away from it, and well, the principles, what she took away from that basically were money management models about how you ought to set aside some money for taxation. You ought to set aside some money for let's see what else, running expenses, and things of that nature. And for those of you who, if you have Stitcher or iTunes or whatever catcher you have, why don't you take a look? It's episode 220. That's some useful tips that you can get there. But then in our discussions between Becca and I shared some of my own insights. That's from running my business day to day, what my own ideas are about money management and money pitfalls. Now, the first thing I'd like to get into when it comes to money management is I'd like us to have the assumption that our business is always going to grow. We always have to assume growth. We always have to project growth. Because if you don't assume that you're going to grow, and if you don't wake up every day and project onto yourself that your business is going to grow, you're not going to be motivated to sell otherwise. So we always have to assume growth. So the next thing is I found it useful to allocate a salary or a stipend or a personal sum or whatever it is that you're going to call it for yourself. I would suggest that you have this fixed and predetermined so that you don't cannibalize your business. Now, if you keep dipping in arbitrarily, you haven't set defined limits, you're going to find out that you'll be skint from 1 month to the other because you're going to max out. More often than not, you'll max out the money from from your business, and there's not going to be money left aside for other things. You also have to set aside some money for the tax liability. In Nigeria, that's your corporate income tax. That's the amount that you pay at the end of the year. Then there's also the value added tax, and the Nigerian tax institutions. That's the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and then your state Inland Revenue Services in your respective states. They're getting more sophisticated, especially now that we have this BVN structure in place. I think it's your bank verification number. So they're getting more sophisticated in tracking us down. So that's something that we need to get into. We also have to set aside a certain amount of money for working capital every month. That's for your monthly and your day-to-day running expenses. Okay, so that's my own take. That was my own contribution to our study material. So my personal practice has been to allocate money for my major expenses, which are transportation, because like I mentioned in the earlier episodes, personal selling, well, for me, the way I practice it anyway, involves a lot of phone calls, visits to the home, visits to the office, attending bridal shows, things like that. Sometimes marketing at marriage counseling sessions. So yeah, there's a lot of cost involved in transportation, and also I do the fulfillment myself. So I head to the vendors myself and supervise the production of the books, the frames, the albums. I also like to make sure that they're wrapped up nice before they're sent off to the clients. So I do a lot of running around. So I set aside money for transportation. I also set aside money for the internet, because I always have to be hooked up to the internet at all times. And then the internet is a big part of my job fulfillment, because let's say for the corporate gigs, for instance, for the NGO work, I like to finish sorting out everything on site. So I make sure that the photos are, I call the photos, I edit them, and then I load them up onto the cloud, prepare the link, send it off to the client. I like to make sure that everything is fulfilled on site, because if I get back home, I've got kids, and well, for those of you who have kids, you know how it is. You get back home and you can't get everything done. So I spend a lot of money on the internet. I make sure that I have at least 20 gig on my phone at all times. That's apart from making sure that the house internet is also sorted out. Then I also set aside money for business promotions. That's Instagram, the money that I use for bridal fairs, and things of that nature. Now, other money tips that I spoke about with Becca was to collect deposits in advance. The reason why I recommend that is because it's good for cash flow, and also because it helps you to secure commitment from your clients. I learned about this the hard way, because the first time that I was written up about in Bella Niger, I had 20 inquiries after that. I got 4 possible clients, and I remember at the time, then I still lived with my mom in Lagos, and she kept saying, take money, take a deposit. And I was like, nah, I don't want to take the deposit, because if I take it, I'm going to spend it. And she said, if you're worried about spending it, take it and give it to me. But at the time I was a hothead, I decided to stick to my principles, in quote, and at the end of the day, I got 0 weddings. So remember, I said I spoke to 20 possible clients, over 20. It looked like I was going to go ahead with 4 of them, but I didn't go ahead and collect a deposit, and ended up with 0 bookings. And that was a pity, because that would have been a really profitable quarter for me. So another suggestion that I had to my mentee Becca was to use invoice apps, collection apps, those sorts of things, and not just use Microsoft Word or Excel or whatever PDF creator that you have, because when you do that, you have files scattered all over your phone and all over your desktop, and you need to have your proper records in one place and not just scattered all over the place on your computer. The reason why that is necessary, especially from a personal selling standpoint, is when you've sent out invoices or contracts or whatever documents it is that you use in your sales process, you can't follow up or follow through effectively in the sales process except unless if you have them in one place that you can refer to, and that gives you a sense of where you are. So in my own case, what I use is Wave, and I would recommend that. It's a super app. So when I pull up Wave, I can see that I have sent an invoice to Okechukwu on the 16th of March, and it's for 250,000, and he has paid a deposit of maybe 150k, and so we know that the next step is to have the conversation, 2 weeks to the wedding, to be sure that all the expectations are on point. For those of you who use contracts, I'm assuming that's where you have the contracting conversation, you do your redlining, you sign your papers and everything, and then you collect the final deposit. So what I use is Wave apps. It really helps. It's beautiful for handling my invoicing because it has customizable templates that you just slot your logo in, and so it's really beautiful. And then another good thing about using invoicing apps or collection apps or whatever it is that they're called is most of them have this total function at the end of it, totaling function. So it helps. It really is motivating when you open the app and you see how much you have outstanding in what's it called, receivables. I think that's the technical term in accounting. That's when you see how much money is still owed you. So you can see that you have issued invoices maybe for the total amount of, let's say, 1 million naira, but you can see that you've only collected deposits to the tune of maybe 300,000, and so you know immediately that you have to follow up because you have 700k pending. So it's a very these things are very motivating in themselves. So I'll leave it there for today because I think we've gone over 15 minutes, which is the typical time limit that I've kept to for now. So in the next session, we're also going to have more details on beyond personal selling. That's things that we have to look out for beyond being a personal selling guru to help grow our sales and how we manage our business as well. And yes, they're also going to be based on conversations that I've had with my mentee, Becca, who is the third year psychology student. Now, as always, I would like you to please like, comment, and share the podcast from whatever podcatcher you have, whether it's Stitcher, iTunes, Google, SoundCloud, Spotify, Overcast, whatever it is. You can also share directly to your Facebook and your Twitter handle. So if you're listening to this particular episode, you can just look at the share function and share directly to your share to your social media handles. I would appreciate that. They help promote the podcast so that other people can learn and get in on the action as well. And then if you can, please comment or send me a DM on Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Ayede_photography. Ayede is spelled A for Alpha, Y for Yankee, E for Echo, D for Delta, and E for Echo. AYEDE_photography on Instagram. So thank you very much, you guys, for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode.